is going to be, Phil, what's the absolute truth? Maybe we won't lead with that.
But just before that, I think Zoom has a new rule that people might be waiting somewhere and you have to manually bring them in.
Yes, I can see people as they come on, Martine, and so far we're all here, and we'll see. I mean, it's an odd time. I mean, thank you so much to Phil for doing it at 8 a.m. We're at 8 p.m. here. I'm looking at 4 other Canadians. So we'll see. I mean, the UK is now 1 in the morning, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, something like that. So it might be a little bit intimate, which is cool with me. And then people can watch at their leisure. But shall we wait a few minutes? Small talk for a couple of minutes. Give a few more people a chance.
I have to say, I think it's nuts. Actually, it's still. I mean, we remember, right? We remember a time before. Well, okay, I remember a time well before the internet, and it's like I still reflect on this even now. Here am I, like 51 years old, and the internet's been around for 25 years or more, and but I just find it still nuts that here we are. You're literally on the other side of the world. You're actually on the other side of the world.
Yeah, and almost exactly. Right?
Yeah,
super cool, eh? It's super cool. Yeah, I guess we're the same age, Phil. I mean, I'm 50. When's your birthday?
July 27th. So I'll be 52 this year.
So I am 1 month and 1 day older than you are. Mine is June 26th.
There
you go. There you go. Well, hey, man, we look good.
Yes, we do.
yes, we do. So listen, man, I'll let people in as they come. It's almost 5 after. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, these conversations for me are all about off the cuff. There's no plan. And to be completely honest, part of the reason I do these is selfish, man. I get to talk to awesome people. Right. And anyone else who wants to join in gets to join in. So I'm trying to be upfront with that. It's just really cool to meet leading figures in the community. It's pretty cool.
Wow. No pressure.
Well, no. Not at all. None whatsoever. We all know you. I mean, there's the 5 of us here. We all know you, Phil. Do you want to say a couple of words about your bio is pretty good, right? It's I mean, between you and Dominic, it's like a couple of pages, of bio. So do you want to give us a quick little intro for people that'll be watching it later on?
Gosh, it's well, I want to thank you, by the way. I mean, there's so this is the first time, right, that we've actually spoken.
Totally.
Our only interaction has been via Facebook, and yet, there's people on here are like some of my favorite people in social media land, and Dominic and I have spoken for hours and hours and hours on that podcast episode.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was a good one.
I feel the same as you.
I listened to that a few times, man.
It is, yeah, it is fabulous, and I love both of you guys. So, what do I want to say? I guess, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? A bio, the formal bio, people are looking for really what you've done to discover who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm becoming less and less. So that question, in a way, in one respect, becomes easier to answer because there's less to say. Right. But I also noticed, right, there's a search here. I need to find something to say. So what is there of me? I mean, I've been coaching. I can say I've been coaching professionally because the first time somebody paid me was in 2005. Yeah. So, that again, that's a story, right? A few people started paying me in 2005. So that's like 15 years ago. But coaching's been my soul vocation since 2011. April the 15th, 2011 was my last day in corporate. And it's been a very, very bumpy ride. I am very opinionated, very, very opinionated. But what's probably changed for me is the credence that I give to any opinion, and very much so my own. Much, much less credence opinion to my own. People will often ask me, what do you think about this? And generally I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really think about that kind of stuff. So what to say? Yeah, it feels like I've been in the game a long time. It feels like we've been friends. It feels like we've been friends for a while, even though here we are, we're now just meeting. And I'm happy to go with the flow here. Like I say, I'm happy to share my opinions, providing people appreciate that really is all that they are. And if you want to know what the absolute truth is, it's like you're speaking to the wrong guy, because I gave up on that search quite some time ago.
Well,
I can talk about that. Like I can talk about, just touch on that. And so that was late 2017.
right.
So I think most people watching this call, because of who you guys are as well, will be familiar with the three principles and Sid Banks' work and what have you, right? So I came across, I had this realization. Actually, I'll go back a little bit further. I was laying on a sun lounger in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. And I read a line in there: between stimulus and response lies a gap, and in that gap is your ultimate freedom, something like that. And I dropped the book, because in that moment I just saw, holy, yeah. And I realized in that moment, I'm creating my entire experience of life. And that, took my exploration of human behavior, which had started 5 years previous in '98, but when a marriage ended.
Right.
It took it in another direction, and I came across the principles, and they weren't like a slap in the face, because I throughout my life, I remember I've always felt we're part of something bigger, right? A bit of that was rebelling against my dad, because he was completely anti-religious, and I just thought, no, there's something more for us here. So really, to be part of a greater intelligence just makes sense to me. And I came across the principles. It seemed like almost a gradual thing, because I was following Michael Neal and his radio show, 2007, 2008. So my slap the face moment, which a lot of people have when they come across the principles, came from reading that line in that book. So by the time 2017 came, I thought I got it. It's like, yeah, and I'd have a bit of a chuckle to myself. There's all these people saying, yeah, but you can always go deeper with this understanding. And I think, yeah, come on, let's keep it nice and simple. And I had a conversation with Dick and Bettinger following a breakup with a girlfriend, which I took very, very badly at the time. And he just said a few words to me, I think 6 words to me, something like that, which just really struck me. And again, I laugh at myself even relaying this, because I saw at a new depth how made up everything is. And it was like, I had seen up to that point, I thought that everything's made up, but I was still talking about truth and a true self and a true essence and love. And in that moment, I saw, whether it's true or not, it's up for debate, right? I'm only describing what I saw. What I thought I saw was even how made up that was, how made up my idea of love was. And yet my work up to that point for several years had been all about love. People would call me Mr. Love, which is quite funny. So that was like having the foundation, sandcastle foundation, washed away. And since then, so it's a little over 2 years, 2.5 years or so, it just looks to me like that idea of truth, exactly as I say, is an idea that we can talk about and explore. And I much prefer to do that from a very lighthearted perspective than how some people want to approach it. That this is it. This is the purpose. This is our entire purpose of life, is to discover the truth. And the reason we're here is to discover our true self. And I don't think that doesn't look like, that looks like a waste of time to me, quite frankly. It's like, here we are, let's immerse ourselves in life, let's go through bliss, heartbreak, all of it. Gosh, I've rambled a bit, but anyway, that's me.
That's a real good setup, actually, because what I had in mind, the only thing that was sort of in my mind was to ask you about the underpinnings of what you're coaching is where it comes from, because I sort of witnessed from afar that the transition from Mr. Love, or what I saw initially a few years back, to where you are now. And I don't know that Mr. Love is gone, but there's certainly a distinction between, you're saying 2 years ago and now. So the only thing that I wanted to ask you about really was what's going on now. What underpins your? So I'm a new coach. I've been in the physical training field since '06. So I've been a professional coach that long, but not in this field. So I'm very new to this. So what I'm curious about hearing from coaches with a lot of experience is how, and not even how, but where they're approaching their coaching from.
Yeah. Great question. Love the question. Thank you. Where am I at now? Actually, it's quite recent that I've allowed the idea of love back in. Because I've gone through this process and I still do this. This is very much like what my coaching is about, is helping people to see ideas, beliefs, concepts, and the roles that they are playing in their lives, be it limiting or even creating, right? But just helping them to see, because there are things that we believe to be true, which to me, it just looks like it is all made up. And so recently I've allowed the idea of love back into my work, because I'm rather than, 2 or 3 years ago talking about that being the only truth, now I would describe that as my favorite idea. Like, here it is. If it's all made up, then it feels to me that love's a great idea to be playing with. Love's a great idea or concept, whatever love is, we've all got our own ideas about it, the indescribable. Whatever that is, that to me just feels like that's a great direction to help people to look.
I mean, that resonates absolutely with me, and I can see Dominic nodding along as well. So I think fundamentally he's on the same page also. Can you say some more about that? Like how did you come to letting love back in?
It's I'm going to mention it. Okay, so I met a friend of mine, somebody I thought was a friend, actually since unfriended me, but that's a whole other story. And I met a friend of mine literally a couple of weeks before I came to Bali in last October.
Right.
It's actually a previous client as well, which is a bit bewildering, who's immersed themselves in non-duality, which I looked at a few years ago as well. And I sat with this person in a cafe in London, outer London, and this guy was like almost comatose. Like there is just nothing going on, because the only thing that's going on is everything that's just happening. And I was just like sitting with somebody who is flatlined. Now, this is just this guy and how he was in the moment. I want to be clear. I'm not prescribing that's where people get to through their exploration of non-duality, not at all. But that, like, whoa, do I want to live life like that? This guy, he couldn't see the point in anything. It's like, well, everything is just happening. There's nothing for us to do. He closed down his coaching business. What are you doing? Nothing. I don't want to live like that. For whatever reason, that just doesn't appeal. Right. And I kind of imagine that if there is a version of us and Peter at the gates and we get to the other side, I can imagine like being lovingly berated, if there is such a thing. It's like, you spend all your time there on earth trying to understand how you got there and what's going to happen when you leave. You were there to experience being there. Yeah. Like, we are here to live a life. That's it. And whilst I've certainly enjoyed many aspects of the exploration, the exploring all of that stuff, like, why are we here? It's like, what's going to happen when we pass over? We're going to find out soon enough. We're going to find out soon enough. So here, like, I'm in Bali. This is one of the most beautiful places on the planet, you know, and I want to immerse myself in that, in what's going on, in the same way of relating with people and sitting with people who are happy, who are heartbroken, just being with people rather than that exploration. So what had me bring love back in? It was really just realizing that I don't want to be flatlined. I don't want to have explored and explained the experience of life away.
Right.
I want to allow myself to be immersed in it. And if it's all ideas, all the concepts, that's cool with me. Having realized that, that's great. Actually, that in a way, so seeing that has helped me be much more free.
Right.
So I could choose anything. And yet there's so much more of a lightheartedness to it, because there's no convincing going on. There's no real teaching going on. It's like, well, of course, I mean, Dominic and I have perhaps chatted about this, the whole idea of teaching. It's like, you in a way, you can't not teach, but it's really what credence again, what importance, what weight are we giving to that teaching?
Sure.
We're just sharing, like, this is how it looks to me. And if you get something from that and that helps you have a more joyful and loving experience of life, then that's great. But I want you to know that that's just how it looks to me. That's where I've got to in my 20-odd year exploration of human behavior. And it's like, well, I don't want to be the flatline. I don't want to be the empty. I don't want to just be sitting here omming. I mean, I come all this way to Bali and just sit here omming and observing and watching life just simply go by. That doesn't appeal to me. And nor do I want to like pick something and like be not teaching you and having a mutual exploration with you that has you get to a place where I think you should go.
Right.
Yeah. Like a mutual exploration to me is, let's explore. How does it look to you? And I want to know. It's like, wow, that really fascinates me. Like I if your view is different to mine, I am really fascinated by that. Like that can't be wrong. So it's just such a, like, I'm loving life more than ever before, because of instead of wanting to help people to get to a certain place, the whole of life truly is a mutual exploration.
So do you think, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit with this question. I think we'll see what happens. Do you think,
I don't mind being on the spot.
Yeah, no, I could tell, man. It's never seemed like it over Facebook. Do you think that attitude is something that's missing within the 3P community? That lightheartedness, that focus on life now versus the.
Gosh, I don't know if it's just a 3P community. I think we can all very easily start to take stuff very seriously, and get attached to how we think it is and how we think it looks. You know, and I a few years ago, I went on a call with somebody, had a conversation with them. And it got to a point where I'm like, okay, yeah, thanks very much. I see it now. Thanks for showing me. That doesn't feel true for me, but I get it. Thank you. And this guy's like, oh, that's no good. I don't want that. I don't want you to be able to leave this call and agree to disagree.
Right.
I'm thinking, wow, that even now to me, it's still bewildering, because I think that to me looks like the path to world peace, to agree to disagree, rather than having all this convincing going on. And there's an irony really in the 3 principles. If we're into convincing, we're not truly appreciating what the principles are suggesting to us. Because it looks to me like the principles are suggesting to us that we are all individually, and we can enter into that debate if you want, however individual we are, but like we are all creating a reality, here we go in quotes, that can be different. You know, we've all been to a sports game of some sort and sat there with somebody and thought, gee, did you watch the same game as me? You know, and I just find that fascinating. Like there's no need to convince there. So to me, that's if we embrace that, if we can agree to disagree and be fascinated and curious about our differences, rather than just going through life wanting to help people see things the same way as us, that to me, that's liberating. There's less to do and more fun to be had.
It's funny that you know, coincidental maybe, or maybe not. I don't know, Dominic. My partner and I were talking, I can't remember if it was politics or spirituality, whatever it was. And she looked at me and she said, I think on this, we're just going to agree to disagree. And it was the first time, I think, if I'm honestly looking at, you know, my X amount of time on the planet, it's the first time where it actually made sense. It was like, oh, okay, yeah. And there's no weight on either end of that. It was just, we're going to agree that we don't agree on this. And we went on, and it was beautiful. Like, neither one of us seemed to be carrying that weight around. I know I would have in the past. So there was something very pure about the ability to say, well, you know what? I don't agree with you, and you don't agree with me, and that's okay. There was no need, you know. So a lot of what you're saying is resonating in that, you know, the desire to teach, or for me, the desire to be right has disappeared. Right? There is no more desire to be right. There is really just an exploration to be had. Right? Like, so anyway, I wanted to throw that in there. It sort of popped in. I'm just looking that we still got 5 people, man. Let's just open mics up, and let's if anyone's got something to say, let's make it a conversation, you know, or a broader one. I know Dominic's always got something. There's always
hey, Phil.
Hello.
Yeah, would love to hear how the whole thing with Bali came about, and to do the move and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would just be interesting to hear what happened in life and how did that possibility arise, and because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, and just before you go with that, Phil, it certainly seems more possible now than ever before. Seems.
That's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. Isn't it? I want to just close off one point that you made. So that bit about just seeing that it's okay to agree to disagree, and yet also we don't have to. You know, this term spiritually bypass, and that feels a bit strong in this example I'm going to give, but like sometimes it's not okay. Like if I'm living with you and you are playing loud heavy metal music all day, every day, then that's not going to be okay with me. Whilst I'm creating my experience of that, and that's totally my choice and my preference, I won't want to live in that situation, in those circumstances. So we can brush that stuff away and say, oh yeah, we can agree to disagree. And yet there's also this bit of perhaps wanting to honor our preferences, is a term that I use. And I'm still like exploring that. Where do I still want to do that? Do I really need to do that? So, you know, it's, and again, that's just, I don't want to, again, explain away our experience of life and dismiss. If we are only experiencing thought in the moment, and there'll be people on this call who might debate around that, but if we're experiencing something, there's an energy here that we're experiencing, just the mere fact of pointing that out to me is not an invitation to dismiss it. It's just an invitation to understand. Right. So I just really wanted to come back to that point. Bali, interesting, because I've been here almost 6 months now. It's the longest I've been away from what was home. Previous to that, the longest I've been away, I used to spend a lot of time in Vegas. I dated a really lovely woman, still really good friends in Vegas for a while. So I used to go there for sort of 2.5 months. That was the longest I've been away. And I've been feeling really homesick. Like in my meditations, I think I touched on this in a post recently. Yeah. In my meditations, the last few days, tears have arisen of just missing what would seem to be the most arbitrary, random moments of just simply being in a particular street that's nothingness. It would have no significance whatsoever. One particular street near where my apartment used to be, there's nothing there. There's a bus stop. That's it. It's kind of, again, yeah, it's amusing that these thoughts come and tears come. It's like, I want to be there. And I don't know whether that's to do with the fact that right now it's the freedom that I was enjoying there isn't available because of lockdowns and things like that. I don't know why that is, but I'm kind of fascinated that these feelings are arising. But how did it come about? As funny as that, because I don't really know, so I'm going to make something up. Do you see what I mean? Like I can feel. I don't really know. I can't. No, isn't like I can't say. Yeah, this was it. What it looks like. It had been on the cards for a while. I'd mentioned it around about a year ago. Actually, Facebook reminded me. I made a post, and I'd come out of a conversation with a friend, and we mentioned the B word. And there's a friend of mine who lives in Australia, and we were like, "Let's do some kind of workshop together. Where should we do it? Well, we don't want to do it halfway. That would be in Iran. That wouldn't be much fun." And it's like, "Oh, Bali," and so it could be that Bali came about from that conversation, and I'd got friends here. I knew Emily. For a few years actually. She's lived here for 6 or 7 years, and kind of my best friend of 30 odd years moved here last March or May, not sure. So it was like at the same time there was some friendships that were transitioning and dissolving in my hometown. If I'd given you a list of who my best friends were in the world a couple of years ago, there would be 6 names on it, and I'm no longer connected with those people. And that's been tough. One of those is a guy who's known me since I was 12.
Right.
But of course, over that period of time, we're just completely different people. So it was just looking like there was less and less keeping me there. Like the ideas that I was entertaining that were keeping me there no longer looked so important and true. And that's the longest place, my apartment in Ipswich, 9.5 years. That's the longest time I've spent in a single place as an adult. And it had felt for a while, I want to move, I want to get out. So Bali just looked like the obvious choice. And it's quite typical of me just to go all in. I'd never even been here. I'd never even visited.
Nice. Good for you.
And, but I just went all in. So sold stuff, donated stuff, trashed stuff, gave up my apartment. It took longer to get here. I created a couple of dependencies, which looked sensible. And so I thought, I gave up my apartment at the end of July. I was intending to come out here like 6 weeks later. And those dependencies just didn't get met. So eventually I got to the F it point and just came anyway. And it's been one of the most enriching things I've ever done. As I mentioned to you earlier, I started writing about this. It's almost like, we all pretty much live life in our own little walled garden. Not necessarily even being aware that the walls are there. And the analogy I use in this post is that I didn't even know, for example, that dragon fruit existed. I don't know if that makes me dumb. I don't care. You can find 1,000 reasons why I'm dumb anyway. That doesn't matter. But I had no idea. I didn't even know. And here's the thing. I wasn't even aware that I didn't know that dragon fruit existed. I didn't know that durian existed. And I was aware of papaya. I knew there was a fruit called papaya, but I'd never tried it until I got here. And yet my first 2 months here, I had papaya juice with my breakfast, and it became a new norm. Just like, so that which I had no awareness of became a new normal for me, to simply stepping out of my walled garden. And I think this is a great analogy for coaching, and what coaching can help us to step out of the garden into an unknown, into places that we just had no idea even existed. So maybe it is just part of a natural, it's a natural unfolding, who knows? But it's just the unknown has there's a mischievous side in me that for a number of years I didn't let out. Actually, it kind of sounds again ironic that I wouldn't let that out as a parent, but in my early years as a parent, I was quite serious. And but there's this mischievous side in me that has the unknown now be much more appealing. So like, cool, let's do it. Let's jump in. Let's go and see what happens. And I didn't know if I was going to be here a month. I committed that I was going to be here at least a month because I didn't want to come here with the mindset of I'm just going to go for a vacation. It's like a vacation. I want to just see. I want to see what it's like to live here. So I dived in and committed to being here. And for people who coach, I use a similar thing in my coaching. Like, we're not even going to talk about possibilities of early termination or refunds until we're 3 months in. Like, that's completely off the table. Like, it's not off the table forever, because sometimes we do things and it really doesn't work out. There's not a fit, but we're all in. We're not going to even entertain that possibility for the first 3 months. So we're all in. We're all in to explore. We're all in to make living in Bali work, however painful that is. And it has been painful at times. It certainly has. And it's helped me appreciate so many things I wasn't even consciously aware of about England.
Well,
Carpets, sofas,
I-
little comforts like that.
I was just going to ask, as you're talking about, the walled garden and the unawareness of durian, which, as far as I'm concerned, one could stay blissfully unaware for their entire lives and never have an issue. But
yeah, it's so gross. Yeah.
It's a horrible thing. What has it opened up the most for you? What has the move opened up? Like, what? And this might be rehashing what you were just saying, but what is the biggest distinction that you've come to see now, having done the move and being there? Well, I guess that's the question.
Yeah. Once again, I don't feel like I know, but it's really fun to explore in the unknown.
Yeah.
And it's really, wow, there's just so much. There's so much more for us to explore in this life, in this 3D realm, in this illusion of a body. There's so much for us to explore and to enjoy. I'd much rather go for a walk through the rice paddies here, and there's been some really beautiful moments being out. On one of the neighboring islands, Sumbawa, spent a few days there in December and got dragged into like a local village festival where they just elected a new leader, and like there's street parties and food going on, and we're in a car, and like we get waved down, and these complete strangers who don't even speak English, and they're like welcoming us to come share food and that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's just so beautiful. To me, that's much more appealing than getting into some heated debate as to whether we're even real or not. I don't care if we're real. I don't care if this is all made up and an illusion. Like, so what it's opened up to me is, probably I would summarize it like that. It's become so much less important. The why and the how have become much less important. It's like, whoa, let's spend more time looking at the stars. I'd say, so there's a festival, 25th of March here in Yepi, where it's actually the law that you don't leave your house for that one day a year. They're
Really?
very religious here. They're very religious here, and this is like, if you look where Bali is, it's like it's prime location really to be invaded, but I don't think it ever has. And so the locals will put it down to this yearly festival where they shut everything down, no lights that can be seen from outside of your house. The idea being that the dark forces and dark spirits think everybody's gone. Like there's nothing here for them.
Wow.
And of course, yeah, I kind of find it quite amusing as well. And yet, that day, I have to say, is beautiful. There's even no internet. I had to do something quite obscure to get some internet that day. But generally, there's not even any internet. But that night, I mean, there's not as much light pollution here as there are in towns and cities anyway. But gosh, the sky, it's just phenomenal. I'd never seen anything like it. Am I made up? Am I an illusion that's looking up at the sky? Are my eyes real? I couldn't give a damn. It's just so beautiful.
Well, it sounds to me like the name of Phil's game is appreciation these days.
Yeah, somebody suggested to me the other day, really, what it seems what you're all about now is celebrating being human, celebrating life, and it's much more. Yeah, that feels true.
It's how do you do sort of a beginner coaching question here? How do you when you encounter people that are sort of hell bent on making it about what they think their experience is, or the being about the stuckness and getting unstuck? How do you? I'm not phrasing that quite as well as I want to, but someone who's insistent upon making it about the thing rather than the exploration. How do you navigate that as a coach?
Yeah, I'm not sure I really understand the question either, but
Yeah.
um, I want to. There's a nice idea to enter into coaching and fool ourselves into thinking that we're going to be completely neutral. And I get it. There are certainly coaches out there much better at doing that than me, because I don't put any effort into doing that.
Right. Fair. No.
Oh, it froze.
I used to. I tried it in the book, The Prosperous Coach. Yeah. Okay. Did you say I'd frozen?
Yeah. 2 or 3 seconds there.
Yeah. So I used to try and be a certain kind of coach, particularly when I came across the book, The Prosperous Coach, and it didn't work out very well. That shift for me has just I very rarely even mentioned the C word. I just show up with people and we have conversations. So whilst I have some appreciation for people who can do that and enjoy doing that, which is the key thing for me.
Yeah.
If you enjoy doing that, like never bringing your own language into coaching conversation, just only ever reflecting back, I think there's some merit and there's some use absolutely in that. I am definitely not that kind of coach. I enjoy just showing up and just having conversations with people. And I guess my thing to come back to is I would love, and this is entirely egotistical, I would love for you to have more love and joy and ease and creativity in your life. So I want to point you in that direction. So whatever your question was, whatever you come to me with, I'm going to be coming from a place of exploring, well, are you enjoying this?
Mm-hmm.
Are you enjoying holding on to this belief? Are you enjoy looking at life this way? Sometimes I come out with, occasionally, not necessarily on this call, Michael, but like one of my own favorite memes is the world looks the way it does because you're looking at it that way.
Right.
The world looks the way it does because you're looking at it that way. So I want to explore with somebody, like help somebody to see that you don't have to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Who was it? It was a German quantum physicist, wasn't it? Who said, I know this is often attributed to Wayne Dyer because he would repeat it a lot, that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Oh, right. Well, and I think
when I change the way I look at life, when I change the way I look at love, when I change the way I look at relationships, then they change. My experience changes. So whatever you come to me with, I'm going to explore with you what beliefs and ideas and concepts that you're holding on to that keep you from love and joy.
And I think you as unsuccinct as my question was, I think you've answered it, which is stuckness or whatever someone is bringing to the table is met with questioning the permanence or absoluteness of what they're experiencing. Like it could be something different. How so you're stuck right now, you're feeling a certain way. How is that serving you? What other options could there be on the table, kind of thing?
Yeah, and I'm sure we all see, we won't name names, but we see people who are even teaching stuff that it doesn't look like they're enjoying that, because they can enter into a lot of conflict. And to me, there's a much more lighthearted way of navigating life, and that is certainly holding on to any of my beliefs much lighter. I've had clients come to me like holding on to how they see the world, like white knuckled,
Yeah.
and I'm going to prise open their fingers and I'm going to crowbar. But again, pretty much everyone can get to a point where they can see that is made up.
Mm-hmm. It's so cool hearing you sort of articulate all of this, because as I said, I've been following you for a while, and I have worked with Dominic. I mean, he's my coach, and the synchronicity between you guys. I'm not sure if that's the right word or not, but I've learned so much, Phil, from you from a distance, with how it seems like your enjoyment of life just seems to pervade everything that you put out there, which is just so cool. And I also love the fact that you're stubborn as hell, and I mean that in the kindest, gentlest way. Right?
Yeah, I get it. I certainly am. Yeah.
and from Dominic, I mean, Dominic's whole focus, or at least what I take from it, is life is supposed to be joyful. It's supposed to be filled with ease and potential and possibility. And as someone who for years focused on the minutia, who focused on the details of why things weren't good, why things weren't the way that I wanted them to be, to have this world open up that is really the unknown, but it just feels so good, has just been amazing. And I wanted to shake both of your hands on that, because you both played big roles in that over the last few years, right? So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Do we have, I mean, I'm looking at it, it's the same group still. Martine, do you have a question? Do you have anything to share? I'm happy to just listen, Any thoughts? Or
I've
Lynn?
been enjoying the conversation so far. I wish I can live in Bali as well. I was supposed to go in October with Johnny Bawden.
Oh yeah.
He was going to do something, and finally it fell through, but I'm going to Maui instead, so yeah.
Not so bad.
I have this beautiful book. We're talking about non-duality.
Being
And
aware of being aware.
unfortunately bought two of them by mistake. Robert Spira, Being Aware of Being Aware. So he's one of the Canadian, but wants a copy?
Yeah, I would, sure, absolutely.
Because I received two of them. I says, what the hell? Why do I have two of them? So I know it's totally off topic. Sorry, Phil. What if somebody wants to a free being aware?
I gotta say, I think that's hilarious, right? Non-duality, and you accidentally get to, and non-duality is all about not to. Come on, that is absolutely hilarious.
And it's funny because Dominic, I'm not sure if you mentioned this on Facebook or if it was in our personal conversation, you mentioned something about Robert Spira recently and how he was explaining things, which got me thinking about it again. And now here we are with Martine holding up an extra copy. So, coincidence or something else?
Oh, there's a fight for the book.
Yes. Yeah, I love him. He'd be my favorite non-duality teacher. He's excellent, because I also get, and part of that is because I enjoy his sense of humor. So I'm not so sure that he takes himself all that seriously either, but yeah, it's just a different energy I get from that. But I want to check before I ask anything more if Martine or Lynn have anything else they wanted to ask.
Martine, that was a shake of the head. No, Lynn?
Well, no, I'm just enjoying the conversation and just learning mode, I guess, or yeah, we'll call it that.
Cool, Martine, much appreciated. Dominic, go for it, man.
No, Lynn's in.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm
there
like,
we go.
this is late for me. Like it's 45. Like I'm totally chilled out. I've had my CBD nighttime edible before bed, and like I'm just really enjoying the conversation. Not probably a good time to contribute to it, but I'm enjoying it anyway.
Well, awesome. Thanks.
Well, thank you for joining us.
There you go. There. Oh.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying thank you for joining us, Lynn. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is and Dominic, just before you ask your question, I just want to say, Phil, thank you so much. It's you never know how many people are going to be on a call. So, 21 said they would, that number gets cut in half right away. But no, this has been I really appreciate this. This has been wonderful. on that note.
Okay.
Dominic, go for it, man.
Yeah, I just wondered, Phil, about maybe about a coaching business, because I know you and I sort of have built these businesses in a very non-traditional way, and just kind of like, what do you do? Where do your clients come from? How, and it may have changed over the years, but yeah, how's that all work?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Dominic.
Well, since it's you asking, I'm going to reply and say, well, it's all working via what I'm attracting, whether I think that's what's going on or not, right? So I'm either in alignment with that or I'm not. So whatever I describe is just going to be how it looks, despite the fact that that's going on. Like I get that, actually, especially, I mean, I got a lot from our conversation. And maybe we'll include that. We'll include that in the link when you post this. Great conversation with Dominic.
Absolutely, happy to do that.
It's varied. Like I've had periods of time in my business where it feels like everything I've touched has turned to gold, and other times where all I ever produce is shit. And I chuckle because there was one year, one birthday, I created an offer. And I remember I created a little picture of a birthday cake, coaching 3:30. I offered people 3 sessions for £330. This is a few years ago, to celebrate that I was born at 3:30 a.m. And that one post generated a whole year of business.
Oh, wow.
Because people followed it up, and then they referred me to people, and I kind of took my foot off the gas for a while as well with that. I just had a whole year of I could trace every client that came to me back to that post.
Wow.
A couple of years later, I did the same thing and got zilch. Got absolutely nothing. Not a single person showed any interest whatsoever. What I've noticed, unlike some people, I won't claim that my business is rocking it all the time, because I'm not. So part of me immersing myself in life is that there are times when I'm actually I'm feeling really good this morning. I've been looking forward to this. I love having these kind of conversations, totally outside in, of course. And there are other times where, like I said to you about the tears of being homesick and stuff, and even like I've had relationship stuff that's going on over the last few years, and I can see that my business is very often a reflection of what I'm going to say, my energy, and not directly. So I can see also a delay. Like it's not instant, thankfully, but it's just like when things have gone well, it looks to me like I'm just generally much more engaged in life in a loving, joyous way.
Yeah,
kind of that simple. And so it does come back to what you always point us towards, Dominic, in that if I'm feeling good, there's just things that I don't know if they show up anyway. Like I think I said in our conversation, to me, it's like much more of rather than a law of attraction, it's a law of creation, but also a law of recognition. Like if I'm feeling good, then I tend to notice opportunities more than if I'm really depressed and I'm just crying with my face buried into my sofa. So yeah, how is business? It varies, but I'm reminded again, like, am I engaged in this or am I distracted from it? So if I'm bringing, actually, I'll go right back. One thing I'm reminded of here, by the way, feels like I'm jumping around a bit. I had forgotten this. This is years ago. It could be 20 years ago. I listened to an interview where Deepak Chopra was being interviewed by Tony Robbins, and Tony thought he'd nailed him with his final question. I'll leave you the easy question till last. What's the purpose of life? But Deepak just brushed it off as like the easiest question on earth. He said, "Oh, the purpose of life is the expansion of happiness." Now, that to me looks like, okay, so it looks like a beautiful idea, but exactly, that's a beautiful idea. So I've expanded it to the expansion of love and happiness. The two are pretty much interlinked, if not the same thing. But I remember years ago, people would ask me, what am I up to? I'm like, well, it's really about the expansion of love and happiness. I love the simplicity of that. So it looks to me, even from a business perspective, if that's what I'm up to, my business seems to show that also.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and that's spot on. I've put offers out in the past that I felt that in hindsight I recognize as having been tied to something. And I was actually speaking to Jessie Lynn not too long ago. It'll be 2 weeks ago, I guess. And we were just chatting, and she said, just do it and not have anything on it. And I put an offer out the next day, and I think I've gotten, and again, I'm trying to fulfill ICF hours. The money is not a factor at this stage of the game, but I got 6 clients out of it. Mm. And money, and I'm getting like PayPal. I'm getting like people are sending me money, and it's like, what the hell's going on here? So I really they're in my own little way, I'm beginning to experience that when we focus on love and happiness, good things tend to happen as a result, and things do tend to take care of themselves, right? So it's very cool to hear you articulate that as well. I almost feel like Dominic knew what you were going to say there.
It sounds so cliche as well.
Well, it does sound cliche, right? Until you start seeing it in action, I guess.
Last year, I went to Peru. I used to have clients. I'm not a coach. I shouldn't say that. I should say, yes, I am a coach. But anyway, I do something else, but I see clients one-on-one. And I used to have a steady clients, I see people 4 to 6 clients, right? And last year, I went to Peru, and I did a certain substance in Peru. And when I came back, I had a waiting list. So
you had a what?
I instead of I have clients steadily coming in. All of a sudden, I have a 5 months, 6 months booked in advance.
Oh.
Just for taking ayahuasca. Anyway, so we'll blame it on that.
Blame it on
that. What did it do to my vibration? I was very curious. I mean, what the hell? And maybe I should go back, but I thought, no, I used to know because I also do energy work, so I knew, intellectually, I guess, but to see it firsthand, like that, like it was like day and night, bang.
Cool.
Cool. Well, Phil, maybe on that note, given what Martine was saying, and you were saying it a lot as you were talking, you kept pointing to feeling and there's something about the feeling and that. And recently I've noticed a bunch of posts that say, well, feelings are transient, you can ignore them, they're just part of the arising and the transient nature of things. But I'm just curious, what is it about that? And when you say feeling, like, what do you mean about that?
Yeah. I want to consider, this is why I think I've used the word energy rather than feeling as well. Like, what's my energy like? And they might look on the surface to be the same thing. I can, gosh, even now I can start thinking about England and the things I miss, and I notice that feeling of homesickness can arise with me. But generally, my energy is alive, engaged, very loving, having a lot of fun. So there's a thing. There is very much a transience to the feeling. I don't know. The analogy that occurs to me in this moment, oh my God, I'm going to use the ocean analogy in a different way. Can you believe it? It's so cliche. So it looks like maybe the feelings are all what's happening on the surface, but there's a deeper thing, like the depth here of the ocean is what's going on there. So really an answer to your question, and anybody who's considering that question, is look at what's going on deeper. Look at what's going on deeper. Because I've had periods where I've been completely withdrawn. I mean, last February, I was talking about this to somebody the other day, really, like it was just last February where I went through a bout of depression, which lasted days and days. And what helped me to get out of that is I started to realize, I've started to identify with this guy, Phil, who feels depressed, and it's like, well, that's not me. So maybe I love the word alignment. Am I aligned? We can use these kind of spiritual concepts with who I really am or whatever, but there's definitely something deeper there for us to consider. It's like I can allow myself to feel sad and to feel happy and whatever, but am I? There's kind of a groundedness really underneath all of that, and a steadiness that, like, without all of that surface stuff going on, where am I at? And a lot of the time I'm like, yeah, actually, I'm really loving life. I'm really loving it. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. No, that's really cool. And I really resonate with the two parts to that, because there is a feeling that we label, and that's the surface, right? So that's the surface. Oh yeah, I'm sad right now, or I felt really disappointed or frustrated. And so there's this surface, and then we label it because it's almost now in form, right? But then there is something else. And I really relate to that. There is something else. And then that something else before it shows up like that is kind of, more of an anchor or something.
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of? You asked about, like, in relation to Bali. What I've noticed really about the locals here is they tend to have like this deeper groundedness, this a peaceful thing. They're not involved so much in other stuff. Like there's a happiness, there's a contentment. And my friend who I mentioned earlier who's lived here for a while, there's a kind of a different mindset. When I look back at what definitely in the UK, there's very, very much a blame culture, right? Like there's a which is all about, that's fear. Has a foundation in fear. Like all of the health and safety stuff, that's all based in fear. Like here, health and safety, why bother with that? Like everybody rides motorcycles with no insurance, and if you bump into somebody, you kind of sort it out on the spot. I saw two people collide just last week, and they just carried on. Right? They didn't even speak to each other. That was it. They just carried on with life. My friend relays a story that he was having a conversation with one of the locals, and they were like talking about this huge hole in the sidewalk in the path, and my friend said to him, "Well, you couldn't do that in the UK because somebody might fall in it." And the Balinese guy said, "Why would they do that?"
Sorry.
Which, if you get that, like, that pretty much sums it up. Like, why would you do that?
Oh yeah,
why would you fall in the hole?
That just wouldn't fly here, would it?
But I think it's this angst, anxiety for the explore life is a fairly new thing. Like for us Canadians, we're all descendant of settlers, right? And when they first came in, they didn't have time for existential crisis, right? They still have to chop the woods for the winter, because if not, it's going to be a hard winter, right? So they didn't have time for that shit, I guess. And they just live their life.
Mm-hmm.
It's 9:02. I could just sit here and listen. Phil, one I don't know. What am I asking for here? What am I looking for here? One one morsel for us aspiring coaches to focus on? What would Phil's wisdom to a young, not a younger, but to an aspiring coach be? What would your words of wisdom be?
Gosh, I've had much more fun, and it's seemingly more of an impact in what goes on in conversations by the more I let go of my ideas around what a coach should be like.
Interesting.
So I'm interfering much less with whatever God has given me to bring into a conversation, into an interaction, into a relationship. I'm interfering less with that. So my advice, if I was to give advice, tip, a point of view, an opinion, would be, how about just trying not to be a coach for a while?
Wow. There's like a whole nother webinar, isn't there, in that? Wow, that's interesting. That's food for thought.
And Lynn said great answer, so you got it.
That's cool. Thank you.
We approve.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really, I mean, for me personally, that's a brilliant answer, because I think one of the things that happened for me in this developmental journey as a coach is that I've at different times tried to be something, tried to be what I think coaching represents, or tried to emulate on some level what people that I look up to are doing, and now that's settling a little bit more, a lot more into allowing, dare I say, allowing something to come through me in the moment versus trying to be something. So, and I mean, yeah, good answer, dude. Great answer. Shall we wrap up, folks? I know for you it's early, Phil, and I well, 8 o'clock. It's not that bad. 9 o'clock.
It's not early.
I
9
so
o'clock now, yeah.
I so appreciate this. Yeah, it's cool. I was I have to admit I was a little nervous coming on. It's like, shit, it's Phil. What are we going to talk about? I mean, it's just this dude, right? So this has been really brilliant, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I've just thoroughly enjoyed it, and I so appreciate you, and you know, the platform you provided with your group, and how what you share. Yeah, I love you. It's just been a really beautiful experience, this call, and also just having you guys in my life. Thank you.
So nice. On that note, I think that's a wonderful place to say good night, eh? Or Phil, to you, good morning. Enjoy the day. For the rest of us, good night. Martine, you're holding it up. I'll take it if Dominic doesn't, you know.
Well, actually, I wrote a number to Lynn. Oh. So if you, Michael and Dominic, say a number from 1 to 10.
I'm guessing.
And Lynn has the number.
What's the number?
Wow.
What is it between?
Going to win.
Between what?
Between 1 and 10.
1 and 10.
7.
Shit. Okay, I'm going to the other end of that. 4.
Dominic, you win.
See, and I was going to say 7, right? But then
actually it's 8. So
you
you're closer.
The number was 8, but you were closer, right, Michael?
Well, I had no option but to go to the other end of it. Anyway, well, congratulations, Dominic.
Thank you. I'll send you my address, Martine. I appreciate it.
And thanks, Martine. All right, everybody. Phil, thank you so much, man. Love you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
Thank you.
day. And Lynn, Martine, and Dominic, thanks for staying up late, and we'll see everyone soon. All right, all the best.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally.